Hello, and welcome back to the Catholic Fertility Podcast. I'm your host, Lucia Harmeling. Today, we are going to be talking about DHEA-S. What is that? I've been getting a lot of applications recently from women who have high DHEA-S and aren't really sure what to do about it. I'm actually going to read you from an application that I got recently, which sparked this whole desire to do this podcast episode. She says she's been trying to conceive for 2 years and all of her labs are normal, but she has high DHEA-S. She's tried cycle tracking, supplements. She has no answers. She's getting really frustrated because she really wants a family and she's ready. She's ready to be pregnant yesterday. She doesn't really know what to do with this lab because it's the only lab that's coming up high. She's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Everything else looks quote unquote normal except for this. What do I do? How do I get pregnant with high DHEA-S? And that's what we're going to talk about today. We have to think of labs as data. They are a data point that tells us, okay, there's some stuff going on behind the scenes that we need to address, that we need to look at. So we're just going to jump in. First of all, I think it's really important to understand what is DHEA-S. DHEA-S stands for, and I'm going to read this to you guys, dihydroepiandrosterone sulfate. So it is the sulfated form of DHEA. DHEA-S is an androgen. So think of an androgen as a male type hormone. Women also have androgens. DHEA-S acts as a precursor. So you need DHEA-S in order to produce testosterone and estrogen. Now, a lot of times we can see high DHEA-S levels in PCOS, now referred to as PMOS, but we also can see it in women who have not been diagnosed with PCOS or PMOS. And so we're going to look at why is this level elevated? Now, typically DHEA-S is a marker of adrenal function and androgen production. So let's back up and what are the adrenal glands? Okay, because I feel like we mentioned them and it's important to know what they are, what they do. Your adrenal glands are these tiny glands on top of your kidneys. Think of them as your stress control center that are constantly trying to determine how you should be responding to stress. Your body's constantly asking, are we safe? Are we regulated? Are we stressed? Your adrenals are responsible for how you respond to any big or small stressor. So what does DHEA-S tell us? On your adrenal gland activity, like how stressed is the body? How active are the adrenal glands? Your stress response, are you able to respond to stress appropriately? Sometimes we can see high DHEA-S levels tied with high testosterone, for example. It can really help us to understand irregular cycles, infertility, hair loss, acne, missing ovulation, so meaning that you're getting a period, but you're actually not ovulating, PCOS-like patterns. Now, clients come to me and they're like, some doctors are diagnosing me with PCOS or PMOS, some doctors are not, and I don't really know if I have it or not, but I have high DHEA-S. You can have that level elevated and not have PCOS or PMOS. Since DHEA-S is mostly produced by the adrenal glands, it's really important to look at it as a marker of stress in the body. Now let's dive into what can actually cause high DHEA-S. One is chronic stress and nervous system dysregulation. I see this a lot, especially in women who actually don't think that they're stressed. They're like, oh, I'm actually not stressed at all. I'm a pretty chill person. But then we run a hair tissue mineral analysis on them. And I'm like, but your body is in a big burnout state. Like you've been stressed for a long time. And again, when I say stress, it's not just like little stresses throughout the day. It's overall your stress bucket. If there's any physical things going on that are causing stress, if there's underlying stress that you've just kind of not ignored, but maybe learned to operate at this high stress level to where even when you are really stressed, you just feel like this is your normal because you've been operating in a state of stress for a really long time. I see a lot of burnout, under eating, over exercise, poor sleep, really poor circadian rhythm, or imbalances in light exposure. For example, constantly staring at blue light all day from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed, not being exposed to natural sunlight. Our circadian rhythm, which we'll do an episode on, really does dictate when we produce what hormones in what amounts. how we digest food, how we feel throughout the day. Light exposure is a really easy tool to help support hormones and healthy ovulation, healthy sleep, healthy mood. So even a disrupted circadian rhythm or kind of out of balance light exposure can also impact DHEA-S. Another big one is blood sugar dysregulation and insulin resistance. We have a whole episode on that. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. I'll link it in the show notes. But elevated insulin is a stressor and can stimulate androgen production. We do actually see this in clients who have PCOS or PMOS. Think of it this way. When blood sugars are really dysregulated and insulin is elevated, that is really stressful on the body. Something you can see are really strong cravings, weight gain around the midsection, maybe having really bad energy crashes throughout the day. So really all indications that there's a mismatch with your blood sugars and your insulin production. Again, insulin helps get that glucose or sugar into our cells. So if insulin levels are wonky, whether they're really high or really low, that's going to affect how we are bringing energy into our cells and therefore how we're operating throughout the day. High DHEA-S is also seen in PCOS, so especially adrenal type PCOS. So there's different types of PCOS or PMOS. I keep on saying PMOS because they recently changed the name. So some women with PCOS or PMOS can have more of a adrenal driven presentation. Maybe it is because of insulin. Maybe it's because of there's a lot of stress in the body. It can be elevated even if testosterone levels are normal. So we talked about how DHEA-S helps produce testosterone and estrogen. So even if testosterone levels are normal, you can still have high DHEA-S levels. Another big one that I see is undereating or low energy availability. We recently had a client come to work with us and she was put on a keto diet and was also put on a GLP-1. And so the amount of calories that she was consuming on a daily basis was so low, which really stressed her body out. Again, getting in enough calories tells your body at a very basic level that it is safe. It is safe to conceive. It is safe to reproduce. It is safe to grow a human being. If we're not getting enough calories overall to even meet our needs, we can't meet the needs of another human being. That's why it's really important to eat enough. We also have a whole episode on that. In fact, I think it's one of the first episodes I recorded. Not eating enough calories, not eating enough carbohydrates, restricting a lot. Also even having this like really unhealthy relationship with food where maybe you're eating enough calories, but there's this massive stress of what you're eating and is it healthy and you shouldn't be eating this, or, there's this constant mental chatter and food noise, which can feel really stressful on the body. Inflammation is a really big one. And that can look like inflammation in the gut. That can look like gut infections, parasites. That can look like prior or current exposure to mold. That can look like autoimmune issues, inflammatory conditions. Just where is that inflammation coming from? And that's really one of the things that we do in my practice is look at where is the inflammation coming from? Well, first of all, is there inflammation? And second of all, where is it coming from? Because if we can find the root of the inflammation, then we can treat it or help mitigate it appropriately versus not knowing where it's coming from. Then we can't really do anything about it. Inflammation is very stressful on the body, and inflammation is something that can delay ovulation, that can impact ovulation, that can impact hormone production. If there is inflammation in the body, we want to figure out where it's coming from. Is it oral? Is it gut? Is it vaginal microbiome? Like what's happening? Another big one is poor sleep. Sleep is so important for good hormone production, for healthy blood sugar regulation throughout the day, for regulating the nervous system. We actually heal and recover during sleep. Sleep is so important, and it is something that nowadays is just pushed to the side because it's such a go society and do more and wake up earlier and be productive, yet we're struggling with this huge infertility crisis. And so again, sleep is huge, and not getting enough sleep on a consistent basis can create more stress, more inflammation in the body, which could also be a factor into increasing DHEA-S. Some nutrient deficiencies, mineral imbalances, magnesium, zinc, sodium, potassium, vitamin C, B vitamins, those are all huge for stress resilience. When we're in a constant state of stress, our adrenals use up more sodium, more potassium, and more vitamin C. They burn through that super quickly, which is why I'm a huge proponent of making sure that your mineral levels are balanced. And that's why I love running a hair tissue mineral analysis, because it not only gives us a clear picture of where are your minerals at, what are you burning through really quickly, but then also how long have you been in this state of stress? And what can we do about it? What other body systems are being affected by it? So within an HTMA test, there's a nervous system ratio, a blood sugar ratio, a thyroid ratio. So really, I like to explain it as this like bird's eye view into what's happening with your minerals and in all your body systems. If you're someone who's been struggling with infertility, or you've been struggling with your cycle is just all over the place, your ovulation's all over the place, like something is just off, I really encourage you to start with that really foundational test. We offer it outside of our one-on-one program because it can give you a bird's eye view of what your minerals are doing, what your nervous system is doing, which, as we know, minerals are the foundation for everything going on in your body, every single process. So if your minerals are out of balance or really, really low, it's going to be hard for your body to function optimally and for it to do what it needs to do. Aside from that, nervous system regulation, again, we've talked about how conception is something that happens when we're regulated and when our body feels safe. And that's such a big piece of the puzzle that isn't talked about a lot, especially if you're just going to a provider who's checking basic labs. They're not asking about your nervous system. They're not asking about your past trauma, about your mineral levels, about what's your day-to-day life look like. Most providers, in my opinion, are not asking that. Now, if you have found one that is, that's great. That's gold. Keep them. But just putting that out there. Okay, certain medications or supplements. So you might be supplementing with DHEA. So obviously, if you're supplementing with that, your levels are going to come back looking higher. And then some medications can also affect how you're producing hormones and also your adrenal function. So those are some things to keep in mind. Now, there are things that can increase DHEA-S for rare reasons like adrenal tumors or congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Those are some other reasons why DHEA-S levels might be elevated. Now we're going to talk about some symptoms. So if you're like, I wonder if my levels are elevated, obviously test, don't guess. I never want you to go down this rabbit hole of listening to a podcast episode and being like, that's exactly what I have, and this is what I'm going to do about it. Now, granted, all the recommendations that I give in my podcast episodes, I would say are going to help the majority of women, but it's also really important to get really clear on what your fertility picture is and what is affecting your ability to conceive, because you can only get that crystal clear with having data. And that's why I created my whole program, is because I believe in getting the data that you need so that your plan is clear and makes sense for your body. Because what an influencer is doing online or what your best friend did might work for them, but it may not work for you because your body needs something different. And we need to figure out what that is. Okay, so here are some symptoms that are often seen with high DHEA-S. Acne, oily skin, hair loss or hair thinning, facial hair growth, irregular or missing cycles. So if you're skipping months, if you're going a long time between bleeds, if your ovulation, it's like on day 12 and then it's on day 28 and then it's on day, it's just all over the place. It's not very predictable. If you're struggling with infertility, if you've been trying to conceive for 3 to 6 months and you're not getting pregnant, I know the recommendation out there is like, wait a whole year and then start looking into things. I think that's crazy. If you have been trying for 3 to 6 months and you're not getting pregnant, I really encourage you to start looking into it sooner than later, because you're basically just playing with time. If there's something that needs to be addressed at 3 months or at 6 months and it's not being addressed, why would it change by a year? You're just continuing to try when there's something behind the scenes that needs to be addressed. So I actually disagree with that whole recommendation of waiting an entire year. That logically doesn't make any sense to me. And I feel like it really is a disservice to women, because it is very emotionally and physically taxing to be trying for an entire year without answers. Another big one is anxiety or feeling really wired. Again, DHEA-S is an adrenal hormone produced in the adrenal glands. So if you're extremely stressed, if you're living in this state of fight or flight, you might probably feel more anxious, more irritable, more wired. Having trouble sleeping can be another big one. And then belly weight gain can be another big one. Because again, your body's in this heightened state of stress. When our body's in a state of stress, it's going to want to hold on to energy or calories, fat, more so than not, because it's looking for safety. And if it's sensing stress and it doesn't know, are we going to have enough fuel later? I should probably hold on to some reserves just in case, which is another reason why you see a lot of weight gain or can see some weight gain when there's really high cortisol levels, because your body's literally trying to store for safety. Big thing to know is instead of just looking at, okay, I need to get my DHEA-S levels lower, it's really figuring out, why are they high to begin with? So does the body feel unsafe or really stressed? Where is that stress coming from? Is there inflammation? And if so, where? Is blood sugar stable? Are you eating enough? Are you eating consistently? Are you eating balanced meals? Does your body have the minerals, the nutrients that it needs in order to use fuel properly? Because if minerals are low, you're breaking down food differently. You're not absorbing food as well. There's specific minerals that help you balance blood sugar better, to use insulin better. Everything is super connected. And that's why I mentioned the HTMA test earlier, is because if those levels are out of whack, then anything else that needs support can't work optimally, because it needs to have those foundational levels in check. And then is your nervous system actually stuck in survival mode? So it's really important to know. And that can be from honestly just feeling really stressed, like you're balancing a lot on your plate. It's work, it's family, it's the go, go, go. It's feeling like you need to keep up with everybody else. It's constantly being stimulated by other people's lives on Instagram. I'm going to do an entire podcast episode on this, actually, maybe the next one will be all about heart rate variability and how that can be such a great tool at looking at how regulated your nervous system is and how your body's recovering from day to day. I think that in and of itself can tell us a lot. I think if more women were to look at HRV versus their weight, we would be in a way better place mentally. All that to say, but it's important to know, is your body stuck in survival mode? Is it feeling safe? Now, the other thing I want to point out, and specifically from this application, is she said all of her other labs look normal. Now, again, normal for what conventional medicine looks at is very different than optimal. So you can be within a normal range based on a specific lab. However, is that level normal for you, and is it optimal for fertility? Because those are two very different things. So I would question, are all her other labs actually normal? Or is she being told that they're normal and the only one that was flagged on a conventional lab report is her DHEA-S? Because those are two very different things. Our body doesn't work in a silo, so everything is connected. Usually when there's one thing that's off, there's something else that's also off. So it's important to know, okay, that's off. What else could be happening too? And what else is being missed? If you're someone who's been told all your labs look normal, but you're not getting pregnant, and you might have even been told you have unexplained infertility, I actually have an entire lab guide for you, which is free. It tells you the specific labs as well as lab ranges that are optimal for fertility. I'm going to link it in the show notes. It's called A Catholic Women's Guide to Unexplained Infertility, the 5 labs you need to help you get pregnant. It is gold. I wish every single woman out there could have this guide, or that it was posted in every single provider's office, because it is the first steps in figuring out what's going on in the body. If you have not downloaded that yet, it'll be in the show notes. Click the link, download it. It'll be super helpful for you. You can even take it into your next doctor's appointment and see. Maybe they're open to ordering some of those labs. If not, you know where to get those done. So here are some fertility clues that a high DHEA-S level can give us. So it could mean that maybe there's not really strong ovulation happening. You could actually be having positive LH strips. You could be technically ovulating. Maybe it's not a very strong ovulation. If your body's in a heightened state of stress, you may not be producing really adequate amounts of progesterone, which is really important for being able to get pregnant and maintain a pregnancy. So looking at that, it could also be a clue that your body is prioritizing safety over reproduction. So again, if our body deems that there's something within our environment, whether it's our body or our external environment, that is keeping us unsafe, that we're just not in a good environment to bring a baby into the world, then it will prioritize safety over reproduction. It can also point towards, hey, maybe there's some hidden stressors in your body or some inflammation that is not being addressed. And when I say hidden, it's because a lot of times inflammation may not even be something that you can see, right? Like, for example, yes, there might be acne, like that's something that's visible, but a gut infection isn't really visible. Vaginal microbiome imbalances aren't really visible. Blood sugar imbalances are not visible, right? Like you might feel differently, but it's not something that can be seen on the external. sometimes women, especially women who are working on fertility, they may have other things going on, other symptoms going on, but they're not tying the two together. And I will say most women who come to me with fertility struggles or challenges do have other symptoms, but they just don't, one, realize that they're connected, or two, even bring attention to them because that's just kind of their normal. It's like, oh yeah, my skin's really dry, or my libido is really low, or I feel anxious all the time, or I'm bloated, or my digestion is slow, or I've been gaining weight. Like all of those things are connected. The body, again, is one body. And so anything happening in the body is just a clue that we need to look deeper. So what should you do if you have high DHEA-S? First place to start is really getting clear on how your nervous system is doing, your stress bucket. So picturing a big stress bucket, what are all of the things in your life, your lifestyle, your diet, your sleep, your environment that are creating stress and adding stress into your bucket? Is there anything that you can minimize, take out, delegate? Is there anything that you can do to bring your stress levels down? And that's a big part of the work that we do with clients too, is looking at not just, diet related stressors or movement related stressors or gut stressors, but also, what's the mindset like? Second thing you can do is make sure that you're eating enough calories, enough protein, enough fats, enough fiber. That is huge. And eating in a way that makes your body feel good. You'll know that you're eating enough and eating in a way that supports your blood sugars when you have consistent energy throughout the day, when you don't have these crazy out of control cravings, when you don't feel like you have to binge on foods, when you mentally and emotionally have a healthy relationship with food, when your digestion is really good, you're pooping once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, when you don't feel bloated at the end of the day. So there's so many different signs to let you know, like, hey, what you're doing is actually working for your body. And so it sometimes is just taking a step back and pausing and being like, okay, does my body like the way that I'm living life? That's a great question to ask yourself. Third would be stabilizing your blood sugar. So again, looking at balanced meals. I'm playing around with the idea of opening up. So one of the tools that I offer inside of one-on-one work with me is called the Nervous System Reset. And inside of that program, it's a mini program with modules. I want to say it's like 8 short modules, but one of them talks about how to build a balanced plate to support healthy blood sugar levels and support overall eating enough. So I'm playing around with the idea of offering it to women who might want access to that outside of one-on-one. If you're someone who thinks would benefit from that, just leave me a comment. And if I see that enough people are actually interested, I'll open it up for anyone to purchase. Okay, another one to look at is reevaluating your exercise. How much are you moving? And is it excessive? Is your body recovering well from movement? Do you have the ability to take a day off, to sit still? Those are all good things to think about in terms of, is physical activity an added stressor? Because at some point, like, yes, physical activity relieves stress, but at what point is it adding more stress to your body than helping support stress relief? Assessing gut and inflammation. Again, this is something that we do inside our one-on-one, is doing a full GI map, which looks at gut infections, beneficial bacteria, opportunistic bacteria, which are basically bacteria that are looking for an opportunity to overgrow. So really looking at, is there a good balance between good gut bacteria and bad gut bacteria? Is there an infection? Is there leaky gut? Is there a parasite? What's going on there? And then really focusing on minerals. Again, that's where I think an HTMA test is so key, which is why it's one of the foundational tests that we run in our program, because it is so valuable. And I've even created its own bundle. So if you are not in a place to do one-on-one, but you want clarity around what your mineral levels are doing and a whole bird's eye view on fertility as a whole and also your nervous system, the HTMA is gold. I highly recommend doing that. I will also link that in the show notes. The last thing I really want to leave you with is, especially if you have high DHEA-S, is yes, like looking at stress and eating and blood sugar and minerals and all of that, but then also whether it's DHEA-S or it's any other lab that comes back high or abnormal, even though everything else might look normal, or even if all of your labs are looking normal, but you know in your gut, like you just know that something's not right and you know something's being missed, I just encourage you to listen to that gut feeling, because that gut feeling is gold. Your gut is never wrong. Your intuition is never wrong. I truly believe, and this might sound silly, but I truly believe that my intuition is God's way of speaking to me. Like, He knows exactly what I need to hear and feel and know. Because when you know something intuitively, your whole body knows it. It's not just like a thought, it's an entire whole body feeling, whether that's you needing to take a step on something or you being like, you know what, I really shouldn't go down this street, or that person kind of gives me the creeps, or that gut feeling is never wrong. God will never lead you in the wrong direction. And so listen to your gut feeling, pray for clarity, whatever that means for you. Maybe it's switching providers. Maybe it's asking your provider to run more labs. Take my free guide with you, give it to them, see what they say. Just ask more questions, advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself, because this is your fertility. This is your body. These are your hormones. And if there's some intervention that a provider or anyone else is pushing you to do, and that just does not feel right, does not sit right with you, there's a reason for it. And gosh, you as a woman are so strong, and you were given this intuitive sense to be able to create, because God knew that your intuition was going to keep you safe and your future baby safe. So that's why you've been given that. Okay, we're going to end today in a prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this day today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to record this podcast for all of the women and even their significant others who are listening to this podcast together. I pray that any woman who is struggling with infertility, who's struggling with conceiving, who's struggling with her cycle, struggling with her body, I pray that this podcast bring them clarity, bring them hope, bring them ease, and bring them nourishment. And I pray, Lord, that you give them the clarity on what the next step is in their journey, and whether that's working together, whether that's getting more labs done, whether that's taking a pause, whatever it is for them. I just pray that you bless them in all ways. And I pray that if you have set the desire of motherhood on these women's hearts, that you help them fulfill on that. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you so much for being here today. And I look forward to chatting with y'all next time. I will definitely be doing an episode on HRV, heart rate variability, and how that can impact fertility and things to do for that. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone you know, like it, leave me a comment. If there's something you're wanting to learn about, leave me a comment. I'm making this podcast for you all, so if there is a topic that you really want covered, I'm going to do that for you. Thank you for being here.